Now, let's say you're sitting next to a Jew and he's eating a hechsher that you would never eat. So, I won't give any examples, but I don't want to offend anyone. But let's say you only eat satmar shchita, and he's eating something else. So,
Non-Satmar Shvita.
so do you not need a hecker? Because like, oh, he's eating treif, so like I don't need a hecker. I would never eat that in a million years. Or do we say that?
Does that happen?
Does what happen? That you sit next to people eating,
No,
or that have people have
Yeah,
hechsher
they're
that
like,
they
hey,
don't
get out of here. Why would they do that?
No, they don't need to get
At
you out.
work?
They just need to put a hecker. You just,
Oh.
if you don't mind, I'm just gonna put this like,
Suitcase.
this suitcase here in between us. So I don't accidentally eat your food because I hold this treif.
Yeah. Just to back up, you're eating milk and he's eating meat.
Oh, you put something in the
So ordinarily, you have to put something in between. So
Ordinarily,
you
you have to
forget
put
and
something in.
accidentally you take a little bit
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if it's obviously something you would never touch.
So then maybe you
like-
don't need to put anything there. Right, this would be a cool. Then maybe. Right.
Okay.
He's saying he's a good point. All right, this would be a potential to avoid having to put something. You're eating meat. I'm eating milk, but the type of meat you're eating is something I wouldn't eat. You're eating chalv stam. I only eat chalv yisrael, so I would never eat your food anyway. So maybe I don't need the hecker. Yeah, the two people. Yeah, okay, fine. Two coworkers saying students, cafeteria. A lot of times you have people.
This is putting me on the spot. So
Okay.
it's being recorded. So. For a while, I wasn't eating any dairy. So I
Great.
don't know.
Oh, so we're going to
So I
discuss
guess
that
I
case
did.
in a second. Okay.
I didn't think.
So I saw a number of modern posts talk about that, and basically what they say is this Chuvas the Rasha Chakarta, who's a Rabbi Yerushalayim, he says this, and basically what he says is that it's something that you really hold, you would never eat. If you're makbid gomer, you would never eat it. So then we could say this far, like I hold that meat as chafe, so like I would never eat it. So I can eat milk here, he's eating meat, I'm never gonna eat it. I'm mamish hold as chafe. But if it's something that you just, you're machmer, but shas at the chak, if you were stuck on the flight and that was the only food they had on the plane, maybe you would eat it. Like, so you would eat it. So then he says, then you can't say, oh, like I would never eat it. It's chafe. Maybe you would eat it. So then you need the hecker. It's like any other food. You would need the hecker if he's eating milk. Like you're eating flesh. You would need the hecker. And this is a number of other posts can say this as well. Rav Yosef Lieberman, who was a big Rav in Yerushalayim, was nifter about, I don't know, 5 years ago. He has an article in the Kuvit Samaor, and he says also that he says that he says maybe this is not something like, it's not like treif that you would never reach out and eat it. This is like, it's something that's basically kosher, even though you don't eat it, but it's basically kosher.
Oh, it's bedtime.
Sorry.
Not your fault. So he says, how long ago did you stop recording? How long did I have to go? So Rabbi Yosef Lieberman, who was a Rav in Yerushalayim, he writes in Kobetz Amor that he says, this is not, it's not like treif that you're mamish bedili me that you stay away from. Here it's something that has a hechsher or whatever. So he says that you do need a hecker even because maybe you're lost in thought and you might take his food and it's not like mamish treif, and that's basically not too many posts. The older posts don't talk about it, but basically that's what I understand. If it's something you would mamish never eat in a million years, you could say it's like treif. But if it's something that you would eat b'shas chak if you're on the road, so then there is a part to say also that it's a little pug as well. That basically it's kosher food. So just because you wouldn't eat it, it's a little pug. So fastest you should put a hecker, but unless you mamish all this treif or something. And if you're allergic to milk, so the post can discuss.
Whoa.
My doctor's case.
They discuss me.
We discussed the Dredzi Shiloh. So the Chu was the safer. Oh,
More
Yaakov.
likely lactose intolerant.
Yeah, lactose intolerant or allergic.
Are you allergic both to halab stam and halab Israel?
Right, if you're only allergic to chalv stam, so then
I'm allergic to Chalv
you have to speak to a doctor about that if that's possible. So the Sefer Ol Yaakov, he discusses another poskim, and he brings a couple of poskim, said that it's a low plug, because basically Chazal said you don't eat meat next to the guy eating milk. So the fact that you personally have some kind of thing that you can't, you're lactose intolerant, so you can't eat it, but they said you can't eat meat next to the guy eating milk. So there's an exception. If it's totally treif or whatever, there's an exception. But basically, it's kosher food, and you do have the ability to eat it. So the fact that you are lactose intolerant, that's not really good enough, and it's a low plug, and you have to have a. That's one mahalach. he quotes other poskim who say, Rabbi Orbach, other poskim. They say it depends if is it like mamish like a sakana if you eat it, or it's just like it gives you upset stomach or something like that. So some people they have an allergy, they eat a little bit of dairy, they drop dead, right? So a person like that, he's definitely not going to eat the milchiks no matter what. So someone like that, you're not going to say, oh yeah, he might forget and eat it. If he forgets to eat it, he's not going to make it. So he's not going to forget and eat it. So a person like that could, you don't need it. He doesn't need a hecker. Maybe it's a good idea to have a hecker for to save his life, but he doesn't need the hecker for halachically. But if it's just it gives him an upset stomach. So sometimes there are people that they're lactose intolerant and they don't usually have milk, but if it looks really good, the dessert looks really good, so they'll eat it anyway and they'll have an upset stomach, and that happens. So a person like that, obviously, he needs a hecker because we don't want him to eat the food. So that's a number of posts can say like that as well. He quotes Yossi Lieberman said that, and Raphael Cohen, and other poskim. Fine. So that mistaber like that, I guess that depends if it's mamish or sakana, then you're gonna drop dead. So then you don't need the hecker. But if it's something that's just give you upset stomach, or it's better not to avoid it or whatever. But once in a while you could eat it. So then if it looks really good, you might eat it. So then Chazal said you need a hecker as a low pug, even if you generally wouldn't need it, but you need a hecker. And that's the bashas. Okay, so now we'll go back to Rabbi Messel's question. If you're a vegetarian, so I didn't see anyone really discuss it too much, but it seems similar to these type of cases, that if you're makbid gum, the case whether you're makbir on this hechsher or you're allergic, or these type of things. So if you're makbid gum, or you would mamish never eat this food, and you're bedili mineh, you haven't eaten in 20 years, you've never touched meat in 20 years, so it's hard for me to imagine that you would just reach out and take the guy's meat, forgetting that you're a vegetarian. But on the other hand, there's a svara to say it's a low plug. If you're not so makbid, again, if you're not so makbid, and once in a while you would eat meat, then for sure you need the hecker, obviously. But even if you're very makbid, there is a svara to say that it's a low plug. You could eat the food. It's kosher meat, kosher milk. It's something that you could eat. So just because you decide not to eat it, so the shach said if you take a neder that you're not going to eat a certain food, you still need the hecker. That's what the shach said. So a vegetarian could be considered very similar to that case. I took a neder, I'm not going to eat meat. So I would think it's similar to that. I could hear as far as both ways, but I would say it's similar to the shach's case, meaning it's something that I could eat. I chose, I'm never gonna eat this food again. That's the case of noder hana from a certain food. I'm never gonna eat meat again. Okay, but l'maisa, the shach said you need the hecker. That's not called bedili mineh. That's even if it's been I don't know. The shach didn't if it's been a long time since you took the nether or not. But I would think that you're safer off saying low plug and you should get a hecker. But I could hear as far the other way also. If you want to
So
disagree, go ahead.
Forgive me.
Yeah, I forgive you.
According to the shach, if you take a netter, you're not going to have cheesecake.
Yeah.
And you're having a nice cheese sandwich. And your friend is having cheesecake. Do you need to have a hecker? Because you're going to eat his cheesecake? Because
And then you're going to overrun that issue of eating cheesecake?
it's a bit dry. So also,
I don't think
maybe
he
it's
discussed that case. I think he was discussing you're eating meat and he's eating cheesecake.
Right,
Not
but
gonna share his cheesecake. But
logically.
you want to know if you need a hecker to avoid your issue that you created. That's a good question. I don't know.
You gonna drink those?
Yeah. Without a hecker.
I don't know the answer.
But right, but logically, no. I think.
No, you created an issue, so you should need a hecker. And it's something that's within the realm of possibility for you to eat, and you're not really bedili mineh anymore. Yeah, I hear. Yeah, maybe you should.
What's the case?
So if you're worried that I'm having a hamburger and he's having cheesecake, right?
Right.
And I took a netter, I'm not gonna eat cheesecake, right? So I need a hecker, right? So say he's having cheesecake and I'm having a glass of milk, and I took a netter that I'm not gonna have cheesecake. I should need the hecker just the same way. It's just the same likelihood, the same chamor,
Okay. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's the shach's case, right? Where you take a netter.
I thought the shach's case was that I'm eating meat, he's eating milk, and I took it in there. I'm not going to eat milk. So maybe you'd have meat. I know there's no chance I'm going to drink your milk because I took it in there. I'm not going to drink milk.
Oh, so that's
Well,
the
the case-
hecker.
I thought that was the
Is
case.
it
The hecker?
So then you don't need that. So the shach says no. You still need a hecker, even though you
Oh.
took another. You're not going to. You still need a hecker
Oh.
just in case,
Okay.
because it is something you could eat and it's within your realm of possibility you would eat. And not really bedili mineh. It's not like treif.
What about the case?
Yeah,
You know,
I thought that's
Paul,
the
he's
next
a
piece,
Yeah,
meat-
yeah, but so you should logically need a hacker all the time if you're gonna be if it's a real risk. I mean,
Yeah, I hear. Maybe you do.
right?
Unless
Well,
that's the case,
in
you
case-
meant it, you know.
What about the case? You're having Paul, he's a meat, but it's less than an hour since you had. No, he's having dairy, you're having Paul, but it's less than an hour since you had meat. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
bad.
so that we're going to discuss that case later. The answer is no, you don't need a hacker. The Piskei Tshuva discusses it. Because it's less chomer if you're just within an hour of meat. It's less chomer. Now, let's say you have on the table, you have some meat that's raw meat or frozen or something like that. You know, I'm sitting at the table, I'm eating my breakfast, and there's some chicken defrosting on the table. Right in front of me is raw chicken defrosting. So is that a problem? Isser halal. So, you know, the Baalei Shulchan says maybe it depends. You go like Rashi or the Ran. Rashi said we're afraid the foods will touch, so you still have that problem that the foods will touch. But if you say the problem is I'm going to reach out and eat some of that food, so here it's raw meat, I'm not going to reach out and eat it. So the Baalei Shulchan says tzarchian in this shaila, and Umaisa tzarchian. I saw a couple other poskim are more makel, and they say Umaisa it's not something you're going to eat. Then it has to be something like royal achila. If not, it's not something you're gonna eat. Not something you could eat. Then it's okay. Now, if it's meat that you could eat, but it's in a bag or a box or something like that, so again, you're eating your dinner here at the table,
That's some takeout.
and there's right in a bag on the table. There's some of the opposite type of food, but I would have to open up the bag, and maybe by the time I open up the bag, I'll remember that I'm not supposed to be doing that. Where Chazal only concerned that if there's food like right here, very accessible, or even if it's in a bag, is it okay? If it's in a closed bag, is it okay? That's the question. So the Chuvas the Rashi Chakarta says if it's in a can, then you have to get a can opener. By the time you get the can opener from the kitchen, you open it, you're going to remember that you're not supposed to be eating it. Because he thinks in a can is okay. The Baalei Shulchan says, again, he says it would kind of depend on Rashi and the Ran. If it's according to Rashi, we're afraid the foods will touch. So if it's in a bag, it's in some kind of container, so they're not going to touch. But on the other hand, according to the Ran, we're afraid you'll eat it, so maybe you would still open it up and eat it. So he says you should keep them off the table. If you have a bag of meat or something, a bag with meat or something, you should keep it off the table. Others are machmir also. Others say it's a closed bag, but it's easy to open. It's not really a big deal to open, so it is a problem. And others say it's totally in the Rashi and the Ran if it's a question of touching or eating together. And seems like it is. You should avoid it. It's like sealed containers. If it's a sealed container, it's very hard to open or something. Maybe.
You might be a little bit.
What?
Yeah,
if you
input in mind.
Yeah. If it's some, yeah.
Reminds me a little bit that the diak between the case of after being cheese as opposed to milk. So
Yeah,
some
yeah,
folks
the
can say
Rishash.
it's because
Rishash says
It's in a
because
cup.
milk is in a cup, so then it's not gonna touch. Yeah, so it's a similar type of svara. Yeah, here it's closed, so maybe you have svara to say. By the time you open it up, you'll start remembering. Yeah. So I don't know. They quote different poskim. Modern poskim talking about Razi Orbach. He said if it's in a bag, it's okay. If it's open, it's not. If it's a closed bag, it's okay. Chaim Kanievsky said Mistaber. If it's in a closed bag, it's okay. Baalei Shulchan is machmir. I don't know.
Yeah, just don't just don't have it in the same table.
Yeah, you should keep it off the table.
Yeah,
That's
this is all cases when it's on the table.
yeah. We're talking about a guy who's eating food, and there's some other food on the table.
So you put your groceries on your table. You should put them away before you start eating.
Yeah, I guess so. And yeah, if it's something that could really be eaten, unless it's something in a sealed container, so it's never been opened yet. So that by the time you,
But you said somebody is like he doesn't like it.
Yeah, Bani Shulchan is basically machmir.
When was he around?
He was nifter a few years ago, but he is a pretty modern,
Oh, okay.
pretty recent book.
Well,
That poskim, I saw a lot of modern poskim discuss if you have a baby with a bottle drinking milk at the table, is that the problem?
Yeah.
You're a hecker.
you
You're
put
eating
him
meat.
you put him
babies.
in a bag.
So,
There's your answer.
so he's drinking the bottle, or he's got the bottle sitting there on the table and on the high chair or whatever, and you are eating meat. So that's a lot of poskim say that's not really called.
The table.
There's a number of svaras. First of all, nobody drinks milk from a baby bottle. No adult drinks milk from a baby bottle. So even though it is milk on the table, but you're not no one in a million years. That's the biggest hecker in the world. You're going to drink it of that. So that's one svara that no one would drink it, and maybe it's not called he's really at the table with you. He's like a separate, especially if he's at like a high chair, it's like a separate thing. But even if he's with you at the table, but it's not really something you're not really like you're not eating together. It's not called like you're eating together with the baby. So those are as far as why not to. Some others are machmir and they say l'maisa, even if you wouldn't drink out of it. First of all, some say maybe you would drink out of the bottle if you needed some milk for your coffee. Maybe you would take some of his milk. And it seems unlikely to me also. But others say, well, sometimes people they want to test the milk to see if it's warm enough for the baby, so they pour it into their hand and they taste it. So maybe you would do that, and maybe also the milk would spill. The baby's flinging it around, so the milk like splashes all over the place. So maybe someone would splash into your food, you wouldn't notice. So they are, and some are worried that you should need a hecker for these various reasons. But it seems like Pashtus, you don't need a hecker for that. That's already something you wouldn't do.
It's like, what's the hecker? The baby's gonna say, "Oh, there's something on the
Yeah,
table,"
right.
so I'm not gonna wave it around.
You say
Yeah,
hecker
it's
won't
like-
help for that.
That's your concern.
He says a hecker won't help. If that's as far as then a hecker won't help. Yeah, right. So the one who said that Svara, the Chai Levi, he said, the Sheva Kasi said this Svara. So he said you should keep the bottle far enough away that it won't splash onto the meat. That's what he said. Not yeah. The hecker won't work if
You
that's
get
the
him a
Svara.
really high chair.
Yeah. Right, what if you're eating cheese? You have to have a milchik kli on the table, like a milchik. You have to have a fleshik bowl on the table, something like that. Fleshik plate on the table. I'm eating milchiks here, and there's some a pile of fleshik china on the table left over from before. Real yakis don't understand this kind of thing. What do you mean left over from before? But let's just say.
This holy building, you say such a case.
So the Shevet HaKahasi has a tshuva about this. In Kuflam Gimel, and he says, "Maisa, you're eating meat, and there's some milk spoons on the table from before." So he says, we don't see that there goes there in such a thing. Even Ben Yomo Kalim, we don't see that they ever said you can't put them there. It's only it talks about foods. So even though in theory it could come to us with the raisa with the spoon also, but Maisa, we don't find that they made such a gzeira. It's not a problem. Knesset HaGedolah actually in this Simon quotes. When he talks about making a hecker, so he says if you're using kli as a hecker, you can't be a milk. Let's say I'm eating milk, is eating fleshiks. So he says if you want to use a kli as a hecker, it has to be a part of kli. It can't be milk or fleshik, because then whoever's eating the opposite type might use it. So the Darkei Tshuva quotes that Knesset HaGedolah, the Bnei Shulchan says, I don't understand. When did we ever see that you can't have a kli of the opposite type on the table when you're eating milk? Who said you can't have fleshik kli on the table? Never says that anywhere. So he says I don't understand. He tries to answer. Maybe it is a problem, but in the end he ends off sarchi. He says I don't see the problem.
Maybe we're worried about you're having like a very hot food.
Yeah, we can
Rishon or
understand.
something.
We can understand what in Sfara what the problem would be, but we don't find in Chazal wherever goes there such a thing. So, the Sheikh Kasi points out it could lead to a deraisa just as much as eating opposite foods. Having a kli, a milk kli that's ben yomo, if you put it into a hot fleshik pot, it will create basar b'chol deraisa. It could create basar b'chol. Just we don't find that it ever goes to this. So.
But you wouldn't have to be hot. It's like
It would have to be a
Rosh
clear
Hashanah?
Yeah, it would have to be a clear Rishon, yeah. But that's the Gemara said, the whole reason what we're worried about when we eat milk together is that you'll bring your boiling hot kli rishon to the table and you'll put with meat and you'll put milk into it. That was the gzeira up to that. That was the Gemara said it's gzeira. The Gemara said that's what we're worried about. Yeah, the Gemara said that's what we're worried about. In other words, if I'm eating meat, he's eating milk. So even if I eat his milk, what's going to happen? Is it a deraisa? No, it's a derabbanan. So the Gemara said, yeah, but we're concerned that eventually how's it going to lead to deraisa? And I'll eat all his food. I'll never be over on deraisa. So the Gemara said, no, we're worried. You'll bring ilfus rishon. You'll bring out the hot kli rishon to the table, and you'll put meat and milk in it, and eventually it'll lead to a deraisa.
So eventually.
Chaos.
So
You know,
Kelim, we could also lead to deraisa.
So when you said that the first time, since I didn't understand, I heard it as chad gzera.
No,
If
the
you
Gemara
don't say
said
that,
no.
if
You don't
you
even
don't
need to
say
say
that.
that. You don't even need to say that. The Gemara said you could be gozer gzera in certain cases that will lead to deraisa. This would be one of the. If it leads to deraisa, you could even be gozer gzera.
And also on a plane, people sit too close to each other.
I'm going to talk about a plane. Other. The question is a plane is that you're on separate trays, so maybe that's like two separate tables because I'll never go there. Two separate, even if you are friendly with the guy. If you're strangers, it's really not a problem. But even if you're sitting next to a person that you're friendly with, and he's eating milk, you're eating fleishiks, but it could be on the plane because I never goes there because it's a separate table, so like you're like separate and you know not to share food. So I did see a lot of modern poskim say that. Older poskim did not
In
discuss.
England, the plane day, the New Year, double wrapped like super pack.
Right.
Amazing.
So forgive me. What
Forgive him.
Never had the best
Is it-
Okay.
so I have my meat, and somebody comes out with their milk, and I want to sit down to eat, and I'm like, oh, use a hacker, and we were looking around. He's like, oh, you know what? Actually, don't worry, it's cold. Everything yours is cold, mine is cold. So what do I say? That
Doesn't
if we do it now, maybe will come in the future to take it not seriously.
Yeah, I think so. If we don't put a
So
hecker
don't.
now.
So don't.
If you
do
let it,
that.
if we eat milk and meat
Take it
together
seriously.
now, so then next time we'll. Because I'm worried that if we allow you to eat meat and milk at the same table, even when it's cold, so then you'll end up
Bring it hot.
bringing it even when it's hot and mixing it even when it's hot.
Yeah, but you see, it's ain't over itself. You can't do anything that looks at all like a Shabbos problem. Maybe I'll come to do it on Shabbos. It's a crazy kind of thing. No.
I wouldn't make up my own gzeira. Ain't no sof is if Chazal didn't say it, but since they said.
No, okay. I don't mean to be clear.
You're saying not so literally, but
It's hard to understand.
It's
No?
hard to understand why they made the gzeira. It seems Basar B'chal is more, I don't know, there's some area that we're more concerned that people will make mistakes.
People think with their stomachs.
It's an area.
Yeah.
I don't have a better answer why. I mean, the Gemara, deals with this question, but I don't know. If fish and meat need a hecker, so the Kaf HaChaim says fish and meat need a hecker, but everyone else says they don't. We discussed it. We learned Siman, Kuf, Tes, Zayin, the locals of Sakana. Kaf HaChaim was Sephardi posik. But other poskim, Ashkenazim and Sephardim hold that it does not need a hecker. I don't know if Sephardim do the Maisa, but Rav Yosef is Mekel also, and all the Ashkenazi poskim are Mekel. So as far as I know, you don't need a hecker. But speak to Mr. Benatar.
He needs a hecker between fish and cheese.
Fish and cheese. Oh, good point.
Good boy. Good boy.
I guess those who are Mekel and fish and meat are probably Mekel fish and cheese as well, but maybe the Kaf HaChaim went home. I don't know. Okay, let's discuss what would count as a hecker. So the Piskei Tshuva quotes the Bach, quoting from the Marshal, that if you sit so far from each other, two people eating together, one's eating meat, one's eating milk, but you're sitting so far from each other, you can't reach out your hand and take his food, then L'kuli Alma, you're okay without a hecker, because you're far enough away from each other, and this is all the post can quote as well. That is, that's one hector. Okay, next.
Placements.
What?
Placements.
Placemats.
Placemats.
Yeah, placemats also works. Yes, either a hecker or a mappa, a hecker mappa, what it's called, hecker mappa, is
Including
eating
a nid or a marriage.
separate. What? Yes.
Placements including a nid or wife and then the husband.
Okay. Fine. Does a shomer work? So the Leiv Aryeh is Perish on Chulin Daf Kuf Dalam Beis. He says that a shomer does work, and he says that's the pshat in the pasuk. It says by Avram Avinu when he gave the malachim. It says he gave them chema v'chalav uven habakar asher asa v'yitin lifneim v'u'umin aleim tachas eitz v'yochilu. So he says, lefi the order, it should have said, he gave them the food, and then they ate it, tachas eitz v'yochilu v'u'umin aleim, and then he should have said, and he stood over them to serve them. So why does it say he stood over them and then they ate? He stood over them means he was serving them, and then so he says the pshat is that he gave them milk and meat. So you can't have different people eating milk and meat at the same table. Kept all the mitzvahs, including the derbanan. So how could he do that? So it must be that he was their shomer. He was just shomering them to make sure that only some ate meat and some ate milk, and they didn't eat each other's food. And shomer works. So that's what he says the pshat in the pasuk. He says another pshat that Ravinu called him out the Torah. It was even if they would eat it, it wouldn't be such an isser, and it would be more like a derban. Derban you don't need it, whatever. So Rav Elyashiv in his Aros and Chulin Dafkot down the base, he brings this leivari and he says, "Oh, it's not cash at all anyway because they look like goyim, so you'll have to feed them meat and milk, because it wouldn't be a problem anyway. No isser halal to feed non-Jews meat and milk, right? But okay." Umaisa, the other poskim do not agree with the leivari, and they say a shomer does not work. The Chuvas Gan Hamelch is the one who says this really, and he brings that the shomer does work by it says on Shabbos you're not allowed to read in the light of a lamp because you might tilt the lamp to make the light better, and it says there shomer does work. So he says, okay, over there it works, but he says by eating meat and milk at the same table that a shomer does not work, because you would need over there by the lamp basically the light is good so you could read, and then if the light gets bad, so the shomer will notice that you're trying to fix it, he'll stop you. But if it's something that he would need to watch you eating meat and milk, he would have to watch you the whole time you're eating to make sure you don't take some of the guy's food in 1 second. So he says that would need a different level of shmira, be watching it all the time. It's very hard to be such a good shomer, and therefore he says it's not possible. Shomer doesn't work over here. Rabbi Akiva over here quotes that Gan Hamelch, and the Darkei Tshuva quotes it, and others as well, and they say shomer does not work. Now, next question is, does a hecker work when it's only the Rishonim bring the Tosfos we mentioned last week, and the Rosh bring the idea of a hecker. The hecker, where two people, one's eating meat, one's eating milk. You can put a hecker. Take an item that doesn't belong on the table, and you put it there, and you say, okay, this is our hecker, so we'll remind each other not to eat the food. Now the question is, does the hecker work when it's only one person eating meat and there's milk on the table? Does a hecker work also? Or does a hecker only work when there's two people? So it's like a combination of factors. That there's a hecker plus it's two people, so at least one of them will remember. But if it's only one person, the hecker doesn't work. And there is a Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Yud Gimel and Aleph, that's very much mashma that a hecker requires two people. The Gemara says it requires deos, like at least two people noticing the difference. The Gemara is talking about nida, whatever, and then the Gemara brings in Basar B'cholov, this case, and it says there's a difference if there's two people. And the Gemara is, well, the whole Gemara, but it's mashma that maybe you do need two people, and then a hecker doesn't work. It's only one person, the hecker's not good enough to remind him. So if I'm eating meat, there's milk over there, I'll put this hecker just to remind myself it's not good enough. It needs to be that there's two people, so at least if one of us doesn't remember, the other one will remember. And this is what the Hafla says in his Chedushim and Simon Peiches over here. He says that hecker needs two people. If you have a hecker, if only one person is not going to have hecker. And the Chuvas Torah Lishma from the Ben Ish Chai, Simon Kuf Zayin, also he says this as well, that hecker works when there's two people to notice the hecker. But there's only one person, the hecker does not help because it's just not good enough. Okay, and the Darkei Tshuva brings some who say that as well, and he quotes including the Maharami Rutenberg. It's brought down. They held that way inside, but Maharami Rutenberg supposedly says that. What? Oh, your ancestor.
Oh.
And Sturmbach says the Tshuva and Tshuva and Hagos, the Simon Shin Sadi Alf, as well that he quotes a number of Maharami Rutenberg and others who say the hecker does not work when it's only one person. There are a number of poskim who say hecker does work by one person, including the Chachmas Adam. In Klal Mem, Sif Yud Aleph, he says that hecker does work if you're by yourself, if you're eating meat and there's milk on the table. He says the hecker works, and the Chavetz Chaim and Sefer Nidchei Shel quotes that as well, and that works. And I saw brought down from Rav Israel Orbach said hecker works, and Rav Elyashiv, someone said the name of Rav Elyashiv it works. But a lot of poskim do say hecker doesn't work with only one person. So I don't know what to say. Halachah Maisa, there's a lot of machmirim, and I don't know.
A shomer also wouldn't work, or just like a inanimate hecker?
You're saying a shomer with a hecker?
No, the shomer is
shomer
a kind of
a lot-
hecker, no?
A shomer is a kind of hecker. A shomer is a way. A shomer could. The Levi felt the shomer could work even without a hecker, right? You don't have a hecker, but you have a guy standing there watching you, so that's good. Everyone else said no, it's not good enough. The level of shmir that's required is too great and it doesn't work. A hecker is like an object or something that's supposed to remind you. So that should, for those who say it works, it works. Those say it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you have a shomer and a hecker, I did actually see someone say maybe that would be good enough to combine the two, shomer and a hecker. There is a raya. There does seem a raya. There seems to be a raya. The Bali Shulchan brings a raya from the Rashba and the other that the Rashba talks about a case where the guy comes into your house with chametz on Pesach. So the Rashba says, oh, yeah, chametz is your mashu, so you're not going to eat out every crumb. So the Rashba says a hecker won't work because even though it's a hecker, so you're not going to eat his food, but a crumb might get into your food because it's your mashu. So the Mashmal says a
Pesach
hecker.
should work.
What?
Pesach's part of a shishim.
Air Pesach, we're talking about on Pesach itself though.
Yeah.
The crumb is going to mix into your food, it's not bottle. So the Rashba says a hecker is not going to work because even though it'll remind you not to eat his food, but a crumb might go into your food. So then he's saying the hecker really, if not for the crumb thing, a hecker would work. So then what are we talking about? We're talking about the guy's eating chametz and you're eating matzah. So that's more like a case there's only one person eating with tray food on the table because he's not going to remind you not to eat. He doesn't know that the hecker reminds you don't eat my food, right? So it's basically just the hecker is just working for you, and it seems to be that the hecker would work. And this is Rashba and Orchos Chaim. Also, the Orchos Chaim says that case the hecker does work. So they both seem to say hecker works in that case. So the Shulchan says, it seems to be right. Hecker does work even by one person. Fall brings as thinks it doesn't work by one, but the fact that he says a hecker doesn't work shows it doesn't work. I don't know. It seems to be a good ride that it does work. And the Bali Shulchan says the same thing. A kid also, if you're eating like a little kid or something is eating meat, you're eating milk. So then if the hecker doesn't work when it's only one person, so maybe the kid is like he's not going to remind you. The hecker's not going to help him remind you. So maybe it also shouldn't work if you hold it doesn't work when it's one person. So Maisa, I don't know what to say if. Hecker with only one person, it's not so clear it works. Something to think about. I don't know.
Allah or makel for a shomer?
I don't think so. There's a much more machmirim than Full time.
I guess if we hit a shomer like Avram Avinu, then that would be good.
Okay, so two people, again, how friendly they have to be. Basically, poskim say friendly enough that they would eat each other's food, they wouldn't be embarrassed to eat each other's food. The Darkei Tshuva brings, let's say this guy, his nature is he's a shy guy. He wouldn't eat other people's food, even if they're friendly. But he just he wouldn't eat. So he says it doesn't make a difference. We're still concerned. Maybe his friend will give him food, right? His friend is a friendly guy. I'll just give him some food. So he still has to be concerned about that. The Pretor says, makbid. It says you're makbid on the guy. Makbid means that he wouldn't let anyone take his food. Now, if he would let someone take his food, but he would make him pay for it. So he says you also need a hecker. That's also called that you would let the guy eat your food. That's a problem. So I see Rabbi Binyamin Forst in the Sefer the Kosher Kitchen. He says if you would share food, then you need a hecker, even if you would expect payment for the food. All right, so I wouldn't let you take my food unless you paid for it. That's still called that we're friendly. Still called that we're not makpidin. That.
Are you gonna? What about the allowance of using non-dairy, like cheeses and stuff like that? Is that is there an issue with that where you don't know if it's cheese, or you don't know if it's dairy, but somebody has something that looks like milk?
So it would be like a marsayan. It wouldn't come. In this sugya, it's
They
not
don't
real.
do that, right?
I don't think we would go so far as to say if he has something that looks like it's dairy, you can't eat next to him while you're eating meat because we're afraid you'll take it and eat it and it'll look like marsayan. I don't think we would go that far.
What if you don't know? I mean, if it looks like milk, you just talk.
Ask him.
Okay.
I don't know. Ask him.
I'm allergic to milk. Is that milk? Throw it away, please.
Okay, another heck there would be there's other people at the table. So the Pesach Tshuva brings from the Masas Binyamin, there's other people at the table, then you don't need a hecker. It's even better than a hecker. There's other people there. So the Bali Shulchan says, wait a minute, Masas Binyamin doesn't say that. All he says is that by a case of a man and his wife, when the lady is in nida, there's other people there, then they're allowed to eat together without a hecker, because there it's not doesn't bring too much closeness if there's other people at the table. It doesn't bring too much feelings of closeness. But that has nothing to do with the Basar B'cholov case. The Basar B'cholov is nothing to do with feeling close to the person. It just has to do with, are you going to remember to not to eat their food or not? So if there's other people, I'm eating right next to him. I got flesh, he got milk. There's 3 other people there eating par food, let's say. But you guys are over there, so I still might reach out and take his food. So the fact there's other people there, I don't see any raya that it's mutter. So my other poskim are machmir if there's other people at the table, even if they're eating par, if it doesn't really help you. But if there's a person in between them, I guess, and he's eating parv. So I did see one sefer said that they could be makel, the person sitting in between them. By neither also, it's brought down that a lot of poskim say that the person in between them also that's mutter, and also a Basar B'cholov. So the sefer Hilchos Basar B'cholov, the rabbi doctor was nice enough to buy me from Hafstadter, and he says if there's someone in between them, then it's mutter. He bases himself on the Shur Sheba Levi by Hilchos Nida. Then that's good enough. Okay, this case that Azaria asked about last week, and he just left, he missed it. Oh well, you can tell him I quoted him if he comes back. And Rabbi Van Messel asked about this week. If you're within 6 hours of your meat, or 3 hours of your meat, or whatever, how long you eat for eating meat. If you're fleshik, as we say, and you're sitting at the table, let's say you're not eating anything, but you're eating part food, and you're sitting at the table with a person eating milk. Do you need a hecker? So the answer is almost everyone is mekel. The Ber Hetiv quotes the Beis Yaakov, which was Beis Yaakov, who says who ate meat is sitting. It says someone who's eating meat, but the Ber Hetiv is it's a toast. It should say someone who eat meat is sitting next to someone eating cheese. So then, since we're concerned that I'm sitting here, I ate meat already before, I'm fleshik, I'm sitting next to the guy eating cheese, so we have to be concerned that I'll eat some of his cheese, and we have to be machmir. Okay, and he's saying it's even worse than a regular case because the guy who's eating the cheese can't even tell that I'm fleshik. I'm just sitting here not eating, or I'm eating par food. So he can't even tell that he's doing anything wrong. So he's going to offer me his cheese because why not? I'm eating par food. So it's even worse than a regular case. This is what the Beis Yaakov says. Everyone else is mekel. The Piskei Tshuva quotes this Ber Hetiv, and he says that Prima Gadim says people are not nizar in this, and besides Prima Gadim, also the Kanfei Yonah, Simon Peches, he says, I don't agree with this Beis Yaakov. We're only worried that a person is eating now, that he'll eat meat and milk, but he says, according to the Beis Yaakov, who's machmer, so then that means I can't even, let's say someone ate meat, now that, let's say a lady ate meat, now she can't even cook dinner with milchiks because we're afraid she'll eat the food. So we never heard such a thing, he says. There's no such thing. And he says basically we can rely on the shitas that hold, the Ashkenazim hold at least, that the Me'ikar Din, we'll see in the next Simon Big Test, that the Ikar Din is, if you have a fleshik meal, when the meal is over, you could eat milchiks after that. We're more machmir, we wait an hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. But the Me'ikar Din, as long as the meal is over, you're sil koberach, you create a table and bench, you could technically eat meat. So he says, since that's how we hold Me'ikar Din, Ashkenazim, and it's only a chashash rachel, because they're abundant, you could be mekel. This is the Kanfei Yonah, and the Aruch HaShulchan brings this as well, and he says the same thing, that we've never heard that a lady's not allowed to cook dinner with milchiks if she had fleishiks at lunch, that she can't cook milchiks now until she's done 6 hours. We've never heard such a thing, and he says it's a chumra yisei, what does he call it? English giyah chumra kuzu. You don't have to worry about such a big chumra. At least man the chashla. No one's concerned for it. So that's basically how the post can go. What?
One step removed is like zero.
You're just saying it's in theory, if
you're not eating anything now.
You're not eating anything now, correct? So you're saying that would lead to cooking meat and milk together is even for another step removed. I didn't see anyone say that that's the. I don't know.
Does anyone say the reason why it's not? They bring riots that it's not.
They all say we haven't heard of such a chumrah, and there's no such thing, and we haven't heard that a lady can't prepare food for milchiks when she's fleshik. No one's machmir for such a thing. More than that, I didn't see anyone say like zero. I assume I don't know. Us not even us to make our din, if you would, that point.
What is the issue? It's just
What's the issue that will?
I mean,
No, it
it's
will
not-
still.
it's there-
It could still lead to these
it's
exact
there
things.
about, so is it, that itself, is that an Isser Rabban or is it a minig or?
Pashas a minig. For Ashkenazim, at least, it's only a minig. To not eat meat within 6 hours, basically 3 hours or 1 hour. We're talking about if you did Silka Berich, that's what the Kafayun is saying. The Iker din Ashkenazim passing Silka Berich. The meal is over, you could technically eat meat. Or we have a minig to be more machmir, but that's only a minig. So the what it would lead to, even if you did eat it, is not so not such a big deal, and that's why we're not so concerned. Yeah, so that's basically how the post can go. That it's not a problem. You could sit at the table even if you're fleshik. And also the post can say that based on this, that if you are fleshik, you could cook milchiks or prepare a milchik meal. The thing is, the Yad Ephraim says, he also says this, that if you're fleshik, you don't have a problem to sit with someone eating milchiks. But he does say prepare a meal. He says if it's something that would be normal to eat the food as you're preparing it, so he says then it would be a problem because since you're fleshik, you shouldn't prepare the meal if that's something that would be normal that you would start eating, tasting the food or eating it whatever as you're preparing. He says unless it's two people preparing the food together, they'll remind each other, so then it's okay. But he does say prepare the food. If it'd be a normal thing to eat it while you're preparing it, you shouldn't eat it. So that I see some posts can go like that. That you shouldn't prepare the food while you're fleshik. You shouldn't prepare milking food if it's something that would be normal to eat in that situation. Okay. Stop there. Just keep going. 9:15 is my round.
Tomorrow's 9:15 p.m. That's crazy.
Okay, just one more thing. What works as a hecker? So it has to be something that doesn't belong there. As the Taz says in the Shach, it doesn't belong there either. It wouldn't be there now, or it would be on a different part of the table. You put it over here, it doesn't belong on the table at all. Or a light fixture, a candelabra. So if it normally would be here at night, you put it here during the day. It's something that doesn't belong here now or in this place now. So that would be a hecker. Some posts can bring it, and it needs to have some height. The Yisrael Aruch, and the Darkei Moshe brings Yisrael Aruch, who says the hecker needs to have some height to it, like a menorah or a kankan, a pitcher or something. And the Taz brings that as well, that it needs to have some height. Darkei Tshuva brings the Yehuda says that it needs to have some height. So Bali Shochan says you can't use a key or a ring or something like that. It has to be something with a plate is not good. Ezra Heather says a plate is not good enough. It has to be a bowl that's a little more height. So a lot of poskim bring has to have some height. On the other hand, the Mechaber doesn't say anything about needing height, and the Ramah doesn't say anything. Chachmas Adam, Kitzur Shalom, they don't bring anything about height. But a lot of Svarim do bring that you should have some height. Comes about Hilchos Nida as well. Also, a lot of poskim say you should have some height. The question is if it has to be between them, davka, or anywhere on the table. Mechaber says it's a hecker, you nosnim beinehem. You should put something between them. So it sounds like it should be davka between them. Some poskim bring it doesn't have to be mashed between. It could be somewhere else, as long as they'll notice it. And that's basically the idea of a hecker. And fine. That's basically it for the hecker. And next week we'll discuss one more thing in Siman Peiches, which is the halacha of. Oh, I didn't talk about the plane. Okay, the plane, whatever. I mentioned already. It's two different tables, and we'll talk about one more halacha that comes up in Siman Peiches, which is the having separate salt dishes for milk and meat. We'll talk about that, and then if you need to have separate salt dispensers for milk and meat, what do you call them? Salt shakers, and then we'll go on to Siman Peiches. Sky.
Shkoyach. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everybody.
Shkaya.
Sky.
Mr. Benatar. Shapri Tohar Zorchaim.
Yes, sir.
Should have told maybe he knows. Nicole. Then we got the Haram Nicole. Such a wazoo here. That's first enough. We got Zari asking questions, and I got hearing the answers.
Sky.
Everyone's going to Marv? I still have a couple minutes, not kicking you out, but
He's kicking us out.
you ready?
Should I pause his recording?
He left his phone, yeah.
I guess he's-
You get your batteries?
What do you mean, why?
Because maybe the batteries were fine. It's the part of this working.
No, it worked. No, once I switched the batteries, it worked.
That worked the whole time? Oh.
It stopped, and then when you pointed out, it stopped in the middle for a second. I don't like when it does that. I don't know why it does that.
I figured.
But then it was working. Yeah, it's just like
This is
sometimes it like stops in the middle for a minute or something.
this is rough, you know? All that biking. Oh, we asked your question.
I missed it.
Oh my
I
god.
mentioned you in the But they said last week, I already asked if you're within 6 hours of meat, can you be?
And then you walk